What's medically wrong with your body right now? Story 1. Multi-level spinal cord injury. Biggest lesion C56. Due to spinal multiple sclerosis, also loads of bruising from whacking my knees off the ground, but that's much less of a long-term thing. Story 2. I have such a long laundry list of rare and unfun autoimmune and genetic issues. Sometimes my doctors literally have to Google what they are when I start as a patient. Answer. Same. It's amazing when you find doctors who are willing to research and work with you. I just had an appointment with a new cardiologist after my previous one didn't know what to do with me, besides try referring me to 6 different places. He claimed there was nobody who could help, but someone from the place who makes my AFOs had the same condition and introduced me to the cardiologist 10 minutes away from my house. The other was 50 minutes. Story 3. I have blood when I poop occasionally. I have to get a colonoscopy. Please, no scary stories. I'm 19 and I'm mortified. Answer. I'm about 2 years post-rectal cancer. Get the at-home test at least. I ignored the early occasional bloody poop for a couple of years before it got concerning to me. And by then I was STG3 and had to do chemo, radiation, and surgery. Look up lower anterior resection syndrome for what success looks like. Be a friend to your butthole and get it checked. Story 4. Overweight, chronic kidney disease, and my back is hurting a little because of my poor sleeping habits. Story 5. Dopamine and serotonin imbalance, high triglycerides, advanced tooth decay, eyesight is busted, inguinal hernia, orthopnea, some PTSD residues. Story 6. A plethora of things, my back from top to bottom, a hernia in my abdomen in a previous surgical incision, a ton of autoimmune stuff most docs don't even know what are, anemia, literally my body been trying to take Key out since I was born. But this migraine causing me nausea right now is probably the worst, as in right this second. Answer. Migraines are the worst. I always want to distract myself, but when they're bad, I'm sensitive to light and sound, which eliminates watching TV, reading, listening to an audiobook, or music. When they're really bad, I can't even fall asleep, so I just lie there with a pillow over my eyes and ears and try not to cry. Anyway, enough about me. I hope you feel better soon. Story 7. My boobs ache for no reason. I got a TB test at work today that I'm worried about. Arm has a small ring around it still, hoping it's just a bruise because the nurse stuck me weird because all my other TB tests were negative. I also got a flu shot today, so my arm hurts. Story 8. 360 retina scars from cryogenic laser surgery as a newborn. I was born 3 months early, and my retinas started to detach. I had to have the surgery to save my sight. Due to the halt in normal development, my visual system and brain never learned to properly communicate. Therefore, I have an involuntary eye shaking disorder. As a middle-aged adult, I've started to develop PVD, which typically doesn't happen until someone is in their 60s or 70s. My right eye completed the process after a retina tear, which caused my eye to bleed internally. It was lasered healed, but I still have chunks of blood floating around inside my eye. I've never been able to drive a car due to being legally blind. It sucks. Story 9. A lot. Gastro issues dumping syndrome, small fiber neuropathy, perimenopause, HEDs, and lupus, plus severely underweight, which causes a whole other host of issues. Have also had stage 2 skin cancer 3 times in less than 2 years. Story 10. Everything. DDD, facet disease, arthritis, worsening scoliosis, fibromyalgia, pain meds that don't work. How about you? Is anyone listening to you? Story 11. I'm healthy, but my dad was diagnosed with HCC liver cancer on top of advanced liver disease on September 14 after being seemingly healthy. Inoperable. He's in the hospital again this week for initial, uncontrolled internal bleeding, fluid buildup in his abdomen, and now is showing signs of hepatic encephalopathy. His liver is failing, and his body is slowly shutting down. Praying immunotherapy helps his symptoms, but not sure if he'll make it that far. My poor mom. Story 12. Kidney failure. Possible torn rotator cuff. Need knee replacement. Need surgery on an ankle. That's the highlights. Story 13. I just got back from the dentist. Dentist gave me antibiotics and has told me I will need dentures. I'm 30. I haven't been able to sleep the past week with this pain. Hopefully the antibiotics will work. I'm really scared to do it since it's irreversible, and I'm just scared of not sounding like me when I get the operation done. Answer: Hi, I had to get all my upper teeth removed a while ago. Before age 30, it's been a few years. My lower teeth are still okay so far. You will sound very different the first few days. My recommendation is, as soon as your pain is managed during recovery, play favorite music and sing along. Your brain will automatically adjust how you enunciate as you go because it knows what the song should sound like. Helps build muscle memory, and you have the music to distract you from how awkward you sound while relearning to pronounce things. Also, learn the phonetic alphabet for the letters that are commonly confused. BDPCZE, MN, any others in your language or accent. Then, if there's confusion, you'll have the phonetic alphabet to fall back on when spelling things. But you also won't need it as much as you think you will. It's a big change to lose teeth, but you're not the only one at your age. It doesn't make you a bad person to have bad teeth, and you will feel so much better once you heal up. Story 14. Can't sleep well due to constant asphyxiation. Coughing up black-brown sludge. Doctors don't know what it is, won't test it, or check my lungs because the x-rays and CT scans don't show fluid, but it feels more like a paste lining my lungs, not filling them. I quit smoking almost a decade ago after smoking for 5 years, and I have coughed this gunk up since before I was smoking, so IDK what it is. The docs in hospitals said, it doesn't appear to be blood or mold, so $1 million in Medicaid later, and here I am with no answers, worried every night that I won't wake up. This has caused me to get 200 BPM heart rate and 80 oxygen. Not constantly, but it happens at random. Nothing helps me though. Not Vicks, not breathing treatments, not an inhaler. I could die from lack of air in front of a crowd at any point the way I feel. Answer: I feel so sorry for you reading this. Doctors that don't seem willing to help can be the most infuriating thing. Many of them lose their empathy due to constant exposure to suffering and a stressful working environment in which they need to function non-stop. Horrible. Did you look into any kind of alternative medicine? Probably you did. Just an idea. Story 15. PKD. Some kind of skin irritation causing red marks all over my body, especially my forearms. Constantly hungry, but if I eat anything I get really sick to my stomach. Pretty sure my body is shutting down. But aside from the kidney issue, whenever I get blood work done, it comes back negative for anything. Story 16. PCOS, MS, issues with my spine in C5, C6. So basically my entire neck and shoulder blade region is in constant pain and discomfort. I've also been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, but never have abnormal thyroid hormone. Story 17. 2 autoimmune diseases, degenerative disc disease, a bum kidney, reconstructed breasts post-cancer, and chronic throat pain, to name a few. Story 18. Wish I could post a picture. I have an enormous abdominal mass that makes me look 9 months pregnant with triplets. It is impeding my lungs from taking in a full deep breath, so my oxygen saturation is in the mid to low 80s. I also have a mass on the back of my left thigh that has started to grow around the side, almost to the front of my thigh. I have many autoimmune issues, metabolism problems. All my lymph nodes are very swollen and painful. The last mass I had removed was 55.2 and was a hospital record. At the same time, I had a full hysterectomy. The tissue was so swollen and crushed that it filled a 5-gallon bucket. I'm horribly depressed and anxious. Throw in major agoraphobia, and I'm just a total package of wreckage. Cancer 4 times. I'm afraid to go in this time. Story 19. Let's see. Heat allergic skin, chronic pain in the bowel region, permanent damage on parts of my face, knees, and arm joints from past traumas. I have the vitamin D levels of a vampire. The muscles in one of my eye sockets seem to be failing. I'm temporarily deaf in one ear. Eyesight sucks. My back is currently littered with small open wounds that like to bleed all over the place. Nails are fudge. Teeth are probably not good either. And probably some other stuff that I can't remember. Story 20. Every day I have intense paranoia, panic attacks, and anxiety to the point that even simple notifications from my mobile phone make me nervous. I suffer from very strong allergies to absolutely everything, such as food, blankets, detergents, the environment, which is why I constantly have red, swollen eyes, brain fog, my joints hurt, I feel like my brain is inflamed, I become very irritable, or on the contrary, very depressed. I am a totally dysfunctional person. I can't work like this. My brain doesn't work. I feel more and more stupid because of the symptoms. It's a daily torture, but here I am, trying to do my best, and helping my mother every day because she is convalescing. I make her all her meals. I take her to the bathroom. I bathe her. But there is not a day in which I do not think something about passing. Greetings. Story 21. Something between my heart and my blood pressure. If I don't walk every single day, I will begin to swell. Story 22. Apologies for the lengthy response. TLDR, among other things, I have an autoimmune disease that has resulted in the removal of 11 organs. In 2012, these are the organs I've had removed all about a year apart in this order. Left ovary, uterus, gallbladder, appendix, right ovary, large intestines, rectum, sphincter, and anus. I desperately want a gastric pacemaker for the gastroparesis. I have a central line port because my veins infiltrate and collapse. I have a sacral stimulator for urinary incontinence and retention because my urinary sphincter gets stuck open and closed randomly, just like my stomach's pyloric sphincter. I have call myriad of other things as well, such as osteoporosis, bigeminy, trigeminy, mesh for pelvic prolapse, IBS, ulcerative colitis, adhesions around stoma, psoriasis arthritis, POTs, cataracts in both eyes, eczema, GERD, endometriosis, anemia, strictures in esophagus due to 247 nausea and vomiting, depression and panic disorder. I'm sure I'm missing something, but the kicker is that other than my anemia when I had sepsis, my blood work comes out perfectly normal. The only time in my adult life that I ran a fever over 99.4 was during that last episode of sepsis. My average temp is 97.54. I've had sepsis twice now and had no clue the first time. It was randomly caught during my annual physical of all things. Anyways, I'd love to finally have an answer as to what's happening to me, but Mayo, KU Med, and my local doctors have absolutely no clue why. How it started. I was working in the ER when my GP and POTS journey began. I don't have diabetes, and this was in 2012, way before COVID. I'm medically labeled as idiopathic GP, but even though they can't prove it, it's widely believed that I caught some type of virus while working that caused my immune system to attack my vagus nerve. It's led to a DX for an unknown autoimmune disease. Things unfortunately got worse over the last few years as my digestive and urinary system are becoming paralyzed. It started, of course, with my stomach, GP, and has led to my large intestines, sphincter, rectum, and anus being paralyzed and having to be removed. My bladder is paralyzed and only works thanks to a stimulator implant. My esophagus has to be ballooned twice a year due to scar tissue from vomiting and partial paralysis. I've had my gallbladder, appendix, and uterus and ovaries removed as well. They believe this same unknown autoimmune disease has caused cataracts, psoriatic arthritis, osteoporosis, muscular cramping, and wasting, as well as a chronic headache that presents as a migraine but is not. And just this week I tested positive for the MDA5 antibody, which indicates amyopathic dermatomyositis. Fun. Can't wait to see what else is going to pop up. Story 23. L4-L5. Intervertebral disc desiccation. Mild severity disc height loss. There is a relatively large, broad posterior disc bulge with some foraminal extension bilaterally. Mild severity bilateral neural foraminal stenosis. Mild stenosis in the lateral recesses. Annular tear in the posterior disc annulus in the left paracentral aspect. Please drink water and take care of you back. This is one of many things life has thrown my way to slow me down. Story 24. Joints that too easily pop in and out of place and get strains, sprains, and subluxations. Not too bad after reading all these comments. Story 25. My body? Bro, it's basically a group project where every organ decided to stop cooperating. The stomach disliked the liver, the brain forgot the deadline, and the knees already submitted their resignation letter. Story 26. Maturity onset diabetes. Undertype of type 1 where it shows up adulthood rather than childhood. It is genetic. Nobody in my family had it before me. I am literally patient zero in my family. Story 27. I have 14 teeth with cavities or is just a half or is a nub. I have a severe stutter along with severe anxiety, depression, POTS. I had a fucking silent heart attack when I was like 5 or 6 and medically died. I have so much trauma that if I were to trauma dump, it would take an actual dumper truck. IDK what their actual name is, but you what I mean. I am autistic. I have a hip joint disorder that has a really long name that starts with H, IDK, but it's basically my hip bones are rubbing away at my joints with every. Story 28. Post-infectious IBS that has lasted 3.5 years now. and counting. I eat a highly restrictive diet to manage symptoms but still suffer. Makes it very difficult to go out, enjoy meals, and live a normal life. I envy those of you with iron stomachs. Story 29. My new molar crown that I got 2 months ago shattered because apparently I grind my teeth in my sleep. Got a temporary crown in today. My face feels like I went 5 rounds with Tapuria. Each sneeze is hell. And I'm going back next week to get the actual crown done. Story 30. Almost everything. Far too much to list. It's easier to list what don't have. I don't have cancer at the moment, and yes, I need that qualifier cause I've had it in the past. I currently do not have any sort of dementia. I don't have MS or Parkinson's or any diseases in that family of diseases. I think that covers it. Story 31. I currently have been experiencing the feeling of wet skin when my skin is dry and exploding head syndrome at night. Story 32. I'm 23 and have a messed up back currently. I'm not supposed to bend or twist. Also not supposed to lift over 5 pounds. So regular, everyday things I can't do? I legit bent down to grab something on the ground and got a sharp pain in my back and almost cried. Story 33. PCOS and Hashimoto's thyroiditis, causing hypothyroidism that's being very resistant to synthetic thyroid hormones. Lately really struggling with the temperature regulation symptom, so I feel like I'm unbearably hot all the time to the point of nausea. Plus I'm constantly exhausted. Also dealing with chronic migraines and chronic shoulder wrist pain from an old injury. Yesterday I spent 6 hours of my evening in bed in the dark because pills weren't touching my pain. Migraine, radiating pain down my entire right arm from neck to palm. Had a brief 20-minute period of relief from some CBD icy hot type pain cream, but it wears off quickly, and I had to slather it on my entire limb like sunscreen. Story 34. Sleep apnea, high blood pressure, chronic migraines, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, overweight, ADHD, and my sciatica is flaring again. Oh, and PCOS. Yay me. Story 35. I was born with a genetic disorder called familial hypercholesterolemia, FH. It prevents my body from removing excess cholesterol. This buildup of cholesterol can lead to early heart disease and coronary artery disease. Story 36. Anxiety, depression, panic disorder, colitis, hyperlordosis, and high risk of developing heart disease and diabetes. Story 37. Man, for physical issues, I have a benign tumor inside my spine, along with a dead L5-S1 disc, along with a few other dying discs in both my thoracic and cervical spine from degenerative disc disease. I also have pes plano valgus, or flat feet with heels that roll outward. And I have Ehlers-Danlos, which presents as hyperflexibility, most notably in certain ligaments like my hips, knees, and wrists. My fingers used to be hyperflexible as well, until arthritis and carpal tunnel took care of that. For blood and heart disorders, I have hyperlipidemia, hypertriglyceridemia, preventricular contractions, atrial fibrillation and atrial flutter, hypertension, and tachycardia. Mentally, I have autism and ADHD, AUDHD, refractory depression, CPTSD, and gender dysphoria. Also a recovering alcoholic and addict, 15 years now sober. At least I have a 146 IQ and passed the Mensa exam. I got that going for me. Story 38. Feeling a bit off lately. Just had some blood work done, and it looks like my iron levels are low. Time to boost my nutrition. Story 39. The area around my kidneys has been hurting slightly for the last few days, and I can't tell if it's period cramps or something more sinister. Like I've had period cramps that were worse, and it doesn't hurt when I press on it, so I don't think it's anything especially bad. But you'd think it would be around my uterus if it was period cramps. Story 40. Oh man, a whole host of things diabetic, an infection into one of the bones in my toes, congestive heart failure, and least of all tennis elbow. Story 41. I'm overweight. I injured my elbow, strained tendons, lateral epicondylitis, aka tennis elbow, and I have a cold. Story 42. TMJ, vasovagal syncope, 2 semi-healed broken toes, damaged tendon on my index finger and left foot, a bum left knee, and arthritis. Story 43. Crohn's. Been kicking my jerk since December of 2024. On treatment, but it is taking forever. I am at my breaking point with it. Story 44. My shoulders feel tight from slouching, and I'm 90 sure I haven't had enough water today. My sleep's been a bit trash too, which is why my brain feels like it's buffering half the time. Story 45. I have an abnormal heart rate and have both a bedside heart monitor as long as an implanted loop recorder. Story 46. I'm fat, but I'm working on that. My knees and ankles are so hypermobile that I can barely walk up down hills or step onto curbs. My heart occasionally goes fucky and throws benign PVC spacks, and the less said about my brain, the better. Story 47. Real talk? Right now, my back's been feeling like it's 80 years old. I think I sat weird for like 5 hours straight yesterday. Rookie move. Story 48. Oh man, got a minute? Asthma, allergies, disc degeneration, carpal tunnel syndrome, uterine fibroids, borderline anemia, and borderline cholesterol on my last blood work. Nearsightedness becoming more pronounced. Perimenopause fudge with my sleep, energy, and moods. Exhaustion and stress due to moving. The good news is my asthma is somewhat well controlled. PT is helping my back. Some new supplements and hormones should help with a lot of the list. I'm running regularly and eating well. And as of Friday, our old house will be sold, which will be a major load of stress off. Story 49. I lost 50 pounds this year and my doctor can't figure out why. No lifestyle changes, but weight started flying off me. Went from 198 to 145 in 6 months. Story 50. Too long a list to enumerate here, but I'm still up and around and out and about, although mostly to doctor appointments these days. Cardiac issues are at the top of the list. Story 51. Pseudo-gout. Similar to regular gout, except instead of uric acid crystals, calcium pyrophosphate crystals form in my joints. Also, instead of my toes, they form in my knees and wrist. The crystals are large enough to see on X-ray. Very painful at times. Oh, and this is extremely rare in someone my age. Story 52. I suspect endometriosis, cubital tunnel syndrome, and a stress fracture in my 5th metatarsal. But other than that, IBS, various mental disorders, allergies, you know the basics. Story 53. Osteoarthritis in my middle back and degenerative disc disease all throughout my back, especially my lower back. Story 54. I'm probably about to be listed for a 4-organ transplant. I don't want them. I've got a really fudge-up heart, chronic migraines, and a bum liver. Story 55. I have bone issues in my spine that's created a debilitating chronic pain condition. And unfortunately, it's at a time in history where getting your pain managed is becoming increasingly impossible. Story 56. Was just tentatively diagnosed with fibromyalgia. 2 years of constant chronic pain, and I finally have some idea of what's happening and the medication to hopefully take the edge off. Story 57. Had a heavy crash while cycling about 6 weeks ago. Nothing broken but soft tissue damage to the right wrist and the left shoulder. At 54, I'm just not used to how long this is taking to heal. Story 58. Acoustic neuroma on my right side. Mostly deaf over there, but still retaining my balance. Hoping to avoid surgery each year I visit with my neurologist. Story 59. I have metastatic breast cancer, but am no evidence of disease. For now, I have a hiatal hernia. I have cognition problems due to a combination of menopause. I've had a hysterectomy because endometriosis, and I am on a hormone blocker due to the cancer, depression, chemo brain, and adverse childhood experiences. I have at least a couple little tiny kidney stones, too small to cause problems yet, because I refuse to go off of the Topamax that's working to prevent my chronic migraines. Story 60. I've got sporadic keloids across my chest. They should only sprout up from lesions or some sort of skin damage. They're basically just clumps of scar tissue, but one grew into 2 and so on. So now I've got 4 to 5 and they're annoyingly itchy. Keloids used to make me insecure, but now I'm comfortable. Love everyone on here being vulnerable, and I appreciate you sharing. Story 61. Hypothyroidism. Had it since I was a toddler, and my mom developed it shortly after. She was in her early 20s at the time. I'm 22 now, and it definitely is a struggle, even though I've been dealing with it for the better part of 20 years. Having both insomnia and chronic fatigue is an actual pain, and I don't wish it on anyone. I also used to be really active as a teen, but now I can hardly walk up a singular flight of stairs without getting tired. Story 62. I got tinnitus in my ears. One of my ears is clogged constantly. Not great neck pain from horrible sleeping position. One of my legs hurts when I lift it up or prop it up somehow. One of my eyes is doing less work than the other. I could talk about more of my issues for hours, but I'm too poor to afford a doctor, so. Story 63. Have had really bad psoriasis all my life. Psoriatic arthritis as well. It really sucks to live with, and having to use creams, shampoos, and ointments all the time. When I have a flare-up and go outside, people look at you a certain way, thinking you're contagious. Story 64. I have TMJ, tinnitus from my nerd neck. I have depression and anxiety, which makes the tinnitus worse, which then makes my depression and anxiety much worse. IDK, but I got a debuff that debuffs me more. Story 65. For the last 5-ish years, it has been increasingly hard for me to breathe, taste, or smell. I thought it was COVID at first. Then I thought it might be a cardiac issue. I have a congenital heart defect. And then I thought it might be a deviated septum because of how hard it is to breathe. But last night, literally last night, I figured out that my T10, T12 vertebrae are helically twisted because I finally looked closer at the first x-ray I got done to rule out COVID 4 years ago. So when I sat down and twisted my torso to my left, it untensioned the nerves in there and I could breathe and smell again. Y'all, I had a full-on emotional breakdown. I was shoulder sobbing on the floor in my underwear, and I'm a 35-year-old dude. Story 66. My joints are degrading and causing my hands to go numb. Praying I don't need shoulder surgery for it. I'm an artist. I have POTS, and the change in seasons has me super dizzy and fainting while sitting at times, usually if I stretch wrong. Story 67. I was diagnosed with periodontal disease 2 weeks ago, told I have 60 bone loss. My only option is to have all of my teeth pulled. I'm currently in denial. I'm only 45. Brush my teeth twice a day, use a water pick, mouthwash. Admittedly, I've never been great about flossing. I didn't go to the dentist for years because I didn't have dental insurance and I didn't have any obvious issues. For those of you out there who are young, floss and see your dentist regularly. If I'd caught this earlier, I'd have some options. Story 68. Last year, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. This September, I finished with all my treatments, chemo, surgery, radiation. Now I'm recovering from all of it and just getting physical therapy from my surgery. I got to ring the bell. I'm just happy I got through it all. Story 69. Boob hurts. Forgot I did tipsy push-ups last night. Was sure it was breast cancer until I remembered. LOL. Story 70. Keloid. Covered a portion of my upper shoulder, and I always wear a shirt everywhere except bathing for past 8 years. Story 71. I have undiagnosed obsessive habit of picking skin from my fingers, so at the moment my fingers are full of cuts, LOL. Story 72. I went from 205 pounds to 125 pounds really fast a few years ago after being called fat and haven't been the same since. I'm back to around the high 150s, low 160s now, but I have horrible reactions to certain foods now, almost like I've developed allergies to them after not eating for so long. I think I fudge up my stomach, to be honest. Sugary drinks, sour sweets, Doritos, and a bunch of junk food just makes me feel like I'm dying for a few hours after I consume them. I also drank a lot of whiskey during that time to help with my depression and cravings, which I think probably did even more damage. Physically, I'm probably in the best shape I've ever been, but I felt so much healthier when I was 205 pounds. Story 73. Not sure no insurance had a toothache for 2 months. Drinking again to eliminate ache and smoking cause, why not? Getting up at 5 to grind the machine again. Let's do the time warp again. Story 74. Not really wrong, but I just learned that I have a fused vertebrae at L5 and S1. Apparently it's a congenital defect. Other than that, PCOS and HEDS. Story 75. I have excessively large breasts, although I chose to embrace them instead of having reduction mammoplasty. Story 76. Hashimoto disease, though technically, it's not wrong yet. I'm just a ticking time bomb, waiting until my body successfully destroys my thyroid before doctors will do anything about it. Also, perimenopause and a sinus infection. Story 77. I have a high white blood cell count that no one can figure out why. I have had many blood tests, ultrasounds, MRI with and without contrast, PT-CT scan, and bone marrow biopsy. They fixed the anemia, got my blood pressure down with meds, and biopsied my spleen as it looked like there was a mass. Blood tests included Lyme disease, autoimmune, HIV, syphilis, and so many other things. I am constantly fatigued. I can't do anything without having to sleep for hours. This has been going on for 4 years. Story 78. Dopamine and serotonin imbalance, pain from hypermobility, very confusing bowels, and the beginning of adult beverage dependence. Story 79. I'm 4'7", I had my left arm amputated in March. My nubby aches all the time. If I don't give myself shots twice a day in the belly, I'll have a fourth pulmonary embolism. Story 80. Type 2 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, neuropathy in feet and hands, mild kidney stones and sciatica with a touch of pneumonia thrown in. Oh yes, depression and anxiety inguinal hernia. Story 81. I might have fibromyalgia. I've had foot issues with plantar fasciitis, a collapsed ankle, tears and such. It's progressed to my whole body hurting. They thought I had EDS or RA, but nope. Talking to a rheumatologist in December to maybe get diagnosed. Just sucks being in pain all the darn time. Story 82. Cholesteatoma, collapsed ear canal, sun-damaged nerves, blood coming from unusual places, arthritis in my knees, and random heart palpitations. And I am only a 22-year-old male Australian. Story 83. I may or may not have celiacs. I have been waiting for the results since Friday, and it's so anxiety-inducing. Story 84. ADHD, anxiety, depression, diagnosed simultaneously here. Lazy eye, alternating accommodative esotropia. Left eye by default turns in, but can switch which eye is the lazy one. Unfocusing my eyes or wearing glasses to correct vision resolves it. I'm also very overweight and unfit, which can't be good. There's something up with my feet. They get sore walking or wearing shoes very easily and quickly. Oh, and plants make my skin itchy, specifically grasses, and anything else that lightly pricks my skin. And finally, I get reflux if I eat too much sugary foods. Been like that since I was a kid. As a positive, I had asthma as a kid, but I outgrew it. And despite being far-sighted, my vision is actually otherwise very good. My visual acuity is slightly higher than average at 65. Basically, for that test, I see at 6 meters what the average person sees at 5 meters. Imperial equivalent is around 2016 to 2017 for those who use feet. Google says 10 of the population has 65 vision or better. My distance vision is a lot better without my glasses, but such is the sacrifice to read books and such without my eyes working too hard. Story 85. Right now, I probably have high blood pressure. Having sleep apnea is a pain, but I think it's weight-based as I'm too fat. I get panic attacks, but that's a mental problem, not physical. My eyes need help to focus, so I have to wear prescriptions just to read something. I still get some pain in my hand if I strain it too much, and that's from an injury I sustained in Jan that required surgery. Probably get arthritis or carpal tunnel in said hand as I gel older. The knees snap, crackle, and pop every time I stand up. Probably weight-based again. Guy fever is a pain. I have trouble sleeping, so I have to take meds just to help sleep. I also have fudge teeth that needs repairing or pulling out, but that's my own fault for liking sugary stuff too much and not caring about my dental hygiene enough. Side note, I do brush every so hopefully my breath isn't too rank. Story 86. I tore the meniscus is my knee, not sure if that's what you call it in English, and waiting for an MRI. Story 87. Not really anything medical, but probably still worth mentioning. I struggle with my diet. Just like eating healthy foods like veggies, mentally I'm autistic. Story 88. Parkinson's diagnosed in January. Medicine helps tremors, but I throw up from it more days than not. Also, causes severe constipation. Wasn't an issue for me until recently. Eating 5 prunes, prescription lenses, and Miralax altogether barely help. When things finally start to move, it tears your butthole apart and often causes hemorrhoids. A real self-esteem booster. Story 89. Currently, 6 days post-tooth extraction that was done due to severe infection. Dealing with the infection clearing and the hole closing up. Story 90. HS, Hashimoto's disease, endometriosis, chronically fatigued, always in some sort of pain. Unknown stomach issues as of recently. Fun stuff. Story 91. Well, I potentially have atrial fibrillation, and I have the lung capacity of 70-year-old. I just turned 40. Oh, and I dropped a tower speaker on my foot that hurts like a meanie. It's not broken, though. Story 92. My mom may or may not have leukemia. Stanford Hemonc apparently isn't sure despite 2 bone marrow biopsies. Story 93. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which comes with, no joke, like 25 different comorbidities because it's a connective tissue disorder and your entire body is made of connective tissue. I've had a renal artery aneurysm repaired, a cyst in my brain removed, and my skull is literally bolted to my spine, among other things. What a wild ride. I went fully undiagnosed with anything until 31, when I'd lost enough weight that doctors took me seriously. The biggest issues for me right now are fatigue, brain fog, and vestibular migraines. Story 94. Hidradenitis suppurativa. It's a nightmare, though I just had a huge chunk of it removed from my jerk in mid-September after dealing with painful inflammation for 4-ish years. Feeling a bit better now. Story 95. Degenerative disc disease on 2 of my discs. One is prolapsed, the other is fully extruded and pressing on my sciatic nerves, creating severe sciatica. I get back surgery in a week after months of debilitating pain. I am 20. Story 96. ADHD, but that's constant. Braces, but I'm almost done treatment. I have a cold, so my fudge ears are plugged, which is fudge annoying, but I'm dealing with it. Story 97. I'm 25. My knees are probably 40 to 50. I was a baseball catcher for 15 years. I'm morbidly obese according to my BMI. I'm 5'10", Story 98. A Schmorl's node, stemming from a vertebral fracture 17 years ago. It's when the vertebral disc somehow breaks into the vertebral body. Most of them are asymptomatic, and something like 80% people autopsied have them. But for people who are symptomatic, they're brutally painful, averaging 8.510 before surgery. I'm in the latter group and haven't worked full-time in decades. I'm pursuing surgery now. Edit. I first pursued surgery 16 years ago. I first pursued this surgery, spinal fusion, 14 years ago. But although I was sure it would help me, I was unable to convince a surgeon. Now that we've spotted the node on MRI, I have a chance. Story 99. Degenerative arthritis in most joints, reverse curvature of C-spine due to an old injury, chronic pain fatigue, migraines that are triggered by pain, possible fibromyalgia, waiting for a few more rule-outs, ADHD, depression, anxiety, tinnitus, and a body that just won't quit, hurting. Story 100. PCOS, Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, cardiomyopathy, high cholesterol, ADHD. Last 3 are likely caused by HEDS. And I have a headache. Story 101. According to my doctors, pelvic floor problems. According to me, crippling back pain, dizziness, stomach pain, and fatigue. Story 102. Brain cancer. Losing my vision in my left eye. My damaged brain has me seeing things that are not there. But I have super teeth. 69 years old, no cavities in my life. Nothing is going on now. Every 6 months is just a cleaning. Story 103. I am 20 kilos over my healthy weight. My shins hurt and burn constantly because of bad training, and I probably have untreated, undiagnosed injuries. Also, allergy to latex. After reading other replies, I feel like a spoiled brat. Hope you all folks get better. Story 104. I have a wisdom tooth that makes my jaw feel weird. Sometimes my knees and jaw pop out of place, so I gotta place them back in correctly. Ew, and painful. I'm also not sleeping. Hee hee. Story 105. My left foot's arch is weak, and walking in cheap but cute flat shoes is starting to make the back part where my arch ends sore and almost stabby. Don't know what it is. It goes away, then I wear the shoes again, and bam, it's back. Story 106. High cholesterol. Spot on my lung. They are waiting to do a follow-up. I'm not happy about the weight. Something on my left ovary. I need to schedule an ultrasound. Probably nothing, as I have had cysts there before. Scoliosis, arthritis in my hips, and ulcerative colitis. Oh, and my vision just decided to change virtually overnight, so everything is blurry right now until my new glasses come in the mail. Thanks for asking. Story 107. Severe. Jock itches around and on my genitals. It is really gross. I've been taking medications for 1 week now, and it's probably going to take a few more. Story 108. Pilonidal cyst just above my ass crack, plus an undiagnosed back injury, which prevents me from lifting my left leg much above the ground. I've been toughing it out and just dealing with the pain for the past few years. Finally went to the doctor today and got some referrals to see a couple specialists. It's a start. Story 109. I don't have any threatening issues, just a dog pile of relatively minor ones that make things inconvenient. Story 110. I've had food poisoning for the last few days, and I've reached the point where I'm weak from malnourishment because I've been having a hard time keeping food down. Yay! Story 111. Just found out I have a complex labral tear, with altered morphology in my left hip. I have to see a surgeon to discuss next steps. I've had 6 surgeries in 18 months. I'm sick of this shoot. Story 112. Well, let's see. Addison's disease, Cushing's syndrome, MS, lichen sclerosis, hypothyroidism, chronic migraines, acute kidney injury, bulging discs in lower back, and to top it all off, type 2 diabetes. Went from 110 pounds to 215 in less than 6 months. If I'm not sitting in my recliner, I'm in a wheelchair. It sucks. Story 113. My blood work recently came back normal, except for one inflammatory marker. I have to go see a rheumatologist now. Story 114. Deviated septum. About to get my surgery next week. Hopefully be able to breathe normally after 30 years of suffering with it. Story 115. I have been puking 5 times every day for a month, for the 3rd time this year. I was diagnosed with celiac, but they have since determined that is not what is making me sick. My GP quit in July, not that she was really doing anything to help. It is nearly impossible to get a doctor to care, and I've been pumped with an IV and sent down the road from 34 hospitals I've visited. My GI doctor is nearly impossible to get an appointment with. I'm in a nightmare. Story 116. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which has caused a few other health issues over the years. I'm turning 30 this month, but my joints feel like I'm 80. I'm in a lot of pain all the time, and it's almost unbearable, but I have a desire to keep on fighting. I hope that desire stays with me even on my hardest days, because I dislike this way of being. Story 117. Who knows, but I diagnosed with GERD, functional dyspepsia, and IBS. Doctors can't find a physical cause. Story 118. I don't even fudge know at this point because my dumb jerk under conscious sedation told the doctors I was in pain during my colonoscopy. I was not. And then they had to stop because it's not like they knew. So now I have to pay for full anesthesia in order to actually complete it, so fudge. Story 119. My male body part is shrinking. My LCL and HCL are out of whack. I'm 10 pounds overweight. I have hemorrhoids. My eyes are getting worse. What else do you want to know? Story 120. Well, last year was peritonitis, sepsis, kidney failure, surgery, and months of rehab. This year has been 2 types of cancer, surgery, chemo, and radiation. I'm tired. Story 121. I somehow lost my thigh gap after years of experiencing no problems. Then one day, chafing occurred, and it hasn't been the same since. Story 122. I have a weird feeling in my chest, a bit of brain fog, and have had a slightly swollen thyroid for years. Since my labs all come back normal, doctors say nothing is wrong with me. I can live a normal life and exercise, but I've never been the same from when I first started having symptoms as a teen. I just avoid doctors because they make me feel stupid and try to live as normally as possible. Story 123. Sjogren's disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, Raynaud's syndrome, endometriosis, lichen sclerosis, blepharitis, silent reflux, mild chronic gastritis, thoracic outlet syndrome, likely EDS, and an additional possible undiagnosed autoimmune diseases that my doctors are trying to figure out. Once you get one autoimmune disease, your body tends to accumulate more over time. Also survived a ruptured ectopic pregnancy a few years ago and had my gallbladder removed earlier this year. I'm only in my early 30s. Story 124. I have a lump under my left jaw. At first, the doctors thought it was just a blocked saliva gland, but that was 2 years ago. It's still there. I've had it ultrasounded and x-rayed and had a throat specialist poke at it. Nobody can tell me what it is. Next stop is the MRI. Story 125. Asthma, allergies, and I was recently diagnosed with interstitial cystitis that flares up on and off. Story 126. I should be in NIH journals, yet I chose to carry on life. I'm meant to be written about in journals, just not medically speaking. Story 127. I DK what's wrong, but I randomly get sharp pains in my chest when I breathe. I also have horrible stamina and can only run for about 30 seconds before becoming exhausted. Story 128. I keep almost passing out randomly. Numerous amounts of blood tests done, and nothing found yet. I don't have the money for a CT scan or to get my heart checked, so I'm stuck with it for now. It's been happening since November 2024. Story 129. Issues with the knees. I'm a 28F and it's hard for me to do certain motions with the knees, mainly walking up and down stairs, running, etc. There is this unexplainable pressure and pain, but it feels better when sitting or laying down. Last year, I had fluid buildup in one of the knees that went away after a cortisone shot. I'm wondering if my flat feet is somehow related to it. Story 130. Coping from being a wheelchair user, recovering from a major surgery that required me to get a C4T10 incision on my back. Spinal lipoma removal. Story 131. My brain, nervous system, has PTSD anxiety, which developed into bipolar 2 and manic depression. I am in stage 1 with sciatica nerve issues, and my knees have no cartilage. Oh, and I found out today I was allergic to beeswasp venom, and I'm 44. Whew, that felt good. Story 132. I had a baby last September, and while I was pregnant, I got this persistent pain in my neck and hips. I occasionally still get the neck pain, but the hip pain persists. I say hip. It's on the small of my back on the right between the hip bone and the spine. And when I touch it with a back massager or my fingers, it feels like electricity in my nerve in my hips and leg, sometimes to the other side. I'm not sure why it's happening, but I just do not have the money to get it checked out right now. So I just slap some Tiger Balm on it and use the massage gun all day, every day. Story 133. I don't have periods, and I've had to have multiple biopsies, and soon I have to have a pelvic ultrasound. I'm also being referred to an endocrinologist. It's a huge mystery why I'm not having them, and I don't think we're anywhere close to an answer. They checked to see if I was in menopause. I'm 30, and I'm not. I had to start taking birth control to hopefully get them. Also, have eczema in my ears and an infection in my lip from my piercing. Story 134. Perimenopause, and I'm pretty sure I have a couple cavities. I can only chew on one side. Air hurts my teeth. I dislike having my face touched. Hands in my mouth. The dentist gives me major anxiety. Story 135. Quite a big polyp in my gallbladder that's being monitored. Benign tumor in my liver and NAFLD. I've had quite a few ultrasounds, MRIs, etc. in the past 2 years to monitor the above. Story 136. I've been on and off medication for the past 3 years because of hormonal imbalances. I also recently underwent a DC procedure due to an abnormal uterine lining. The pills I am taking often leave me feeling drowsy and exhausted, and every menstrual cycle is still excruciatingly painful. Story 137. 8 herniated discs, 3 lumbar, 1 thoracic, 4 cervical, degenerative disc disease, spinal stenosis, about a dozen tears in the labrum on my right shoulder front to back, torn rotator cuff on same shoulder, labrum tears on one side of my left hip and both sides of my right hip, torn meniscus on my left knee and a Baker's cyst behind it. Definitely having some kind of gastrointestinal issues, but I don't have insurance to get it checked out. Oh, and neuropathy partial paralysis of my legs from the lower back injury pressing into my spinal cord. Story 138. Neuropathy from nitrous oxide. Mostly my legs, but also various spots throughout the body. Spent 4 days in the hospital. It's been awful, and healing so slowly that day by day it feels like nothing is changing. Story 139. Epilepsy. In the last 5 years, I've woken up in an ambulance with no idea how I got there 3 times. Had seizures when I was in the lunchroom at work, making dinner, and at a friend's house. I've also been woken up from several other seizures that someone hadn't gotten around to calling an ambulance for yet. Oh yeah, had one while driving and crashed my car. That was after I hadn't had one for a year. Thought I'd finally landed on the right meds. Told the EMTs not to even worry about it. I had enough money owed for ambulance rides as is. Brain is literally so hype it jumps off a cliff every once in a while, just for the hell of it. Story 140. Frozen shoulder since February. Totally shot my golf season this year. Can't raise my left arm above the shoulder. Story 141. Complications due to alcoholism. Objectively, I'm invincible. They've been telling me to quit for years. Nothing has changed. Every time I think I'm sick or something bad happens, I'm fine. I am trying to be better, but it's like the frog in boiling water. I'm not going to better my situation until it's already too late. Story 142. Myalgic encephalopathy. Polycystic ovary syndrome. 4 slipped discs in my lumbar region leading to chronic pain and minor mobility issues. IBS caused by intolerance to lactose, sorbitol, and fructans. Generalized anxiety disorder and depression. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Myopia. And that's just what's diagnosed. My body is a mess, Story 143. Found out recently at 43 that I have narcolepsy. Spent almost 30 years thinking I just needed more sleep and that it was normal to feel exhausted every minute of every day. Apparently, my brain gets the equivalent of 2 to 3 hours sleep every night, even if my body gets 8. Story 144. Darn reading this comments. About to say nothing genuinely, and I feel bad about that. So, I am kinda sleepy in the afternoon after a recent bout with COVID. Story 145. Severely anemic due to heavy bleeding and gigantic clots during my period. My uterus is full of fibroids, eventually getting it removed. Story 146. Heart disease, kidney failure, diabetes type 1, eyesight degrading, osteoporosis due to steroids for organ failure, overweight because I feel like jerk 100 of the time and lack energy, basically waiting for a stroke or heart attack to put me out of my misery, age 55, FML. Story 147. TLDR, am the spare parts from God's junk drawer, retinopathy of prematurity, mild ataxic cerebral palsy, ADHD, I suspect autism as well, and possible endometriosis, but I'm still in the process of getting a diagnosis. Story 148. Besides excess body fat, acquired hypothyroidism, premature heart contractions, cholinergic urticaria, bone loss under a tooth, chemo-induced balding, scar tissue from a urinary stricture surgery, and nearsightedness. Story 149. Bulge disc, kidney stones, facial numbness, weakness in my dominant hand, fatty liver disease. That's what clean living gets me, I guess. Story 150. I have a cyst on my fallopian tube that's just getting bigger by the day, but I'm scared of surgery. Got it drained once and have no insurance. So, Miss Cyst stays. Story 151. Just found out today, arthritis and moderate spinal stenosis in my back. Made a hematology appointment for an iron infusion, since my iron is very, very low. GI issues out the wazoo. It's not been a fun few days. Story 152. Just today, actually, there is an irregularly shaped, heterogeneous mass measuring 35 by 14 by 37 millimeters, with indistinct margins seen in the right breast at 12 o'clock, 2 centimeters from the nipple. This mass correlates with the area of palpable concern by the patient. This mass correlates with the mammographic mass. There is an additional, similar-appearing mass at 11 o'clock, 2 centimeters from the nipple, measuring 10 by 10 by 7 millimeters. BI-RADS category 5, highly suggestive of malignancy. Story 153. EGE, eosinophilic gastroenteritis. Been fudge me over since I was a kid. Team of doctors still don't know what to do after almost 10 years. Other than that, anemia, severe iron deficiency, high chance of endo, and possible heart disease in the future. Story 154. Got COVID, developed a full-body viral rash from the COVID, which I've had for 3 months. Then had a cyst that became infected. Then I got a sty on my eye. Then I got diagnosed with PCOS. Got a skin biopsy and stitches, so I've been tending to that wound as well. Then there's the untreated anxiety and ADHD. I went to urgent care yesterday because my heart was doing weird shoot. Turns out I'm just so emotionally stressed out that it is giving me palpitations. All over the last 3 months. Story 155. Type 2 diabetes and the worst teeth possibly known to man, with no substances use and twice-a-day brushing. Story 156. PMDD, ADHD, and a laundry list of old sports injuries that are starting to ache when the snow falls. Story 157. Iron overload and degenerative disc disease with nerve compression, which also causes pain in my leg. Appointment coming up in a few weeks for a surgical consult, but I am as miserable as I've ever been in the meantime. I'm old and scared about the accelerated rate of my decline. Story 158. I'm another one with a laundry list, but right this minute, pulled oblique. Anxiety through the roof because this timeline sucks, and winter is coming, and every bone I've ever broken aches. Story 159. I have a rare blood cancer called polycythemia vera. Herniated discs in my neck causing my arms to go numb from the shoulder down. I have recently discovered my feet are jacked, like have to get special shoes kind of jacked. I did something to my hand last week, and if I pick anything up more than a pound or two, or twist my wrist in a certain way, it hurts so bad that I get lightheaded and break into a cold sweat. Went to the ER for that as it woke me up out of a dead sleep, and all they wanted to do was give me pain meds. I refused. No offer to scan it, just that I should follow up with sports med, and here are some different pills. I have a tooth that definitely needs a root canal or pulled. Waiting for closer to the end of the year for that, so that when I max out my insurance, it won't be long till I can get the second half done. I am quite tired of being in some form of pain or exhaustion constantly, but it is what it is. I don't have time to stop. Story 160. Is this like WebMD where I put in my symptoms and one of you might be able to tell me WTF is going on? Story 161. Hip labrum tear with a cam impingement. Just had surgery a week ago, so I'm on the mend, but it's affected my other hip and knees, so a long road of physical therapy ahead. Story 162. I don't know yet, but I've been having lower back spasms and pain in my lower back that kind of radiates pretty far for a few months. Like my legs and hips start to hurt too. Told my doctor about the chronic back pain, and he said, "Welcome to adulthood." I'm 24, and I'm going to have to talk to him again about it because I don't think it's normal. It started to affect my sleep, and absolutely nothing gives relief from the pain. Not ibuprofen, not Tylenol, not whatever arthritis cream he gave me, not an ice or heat pack, not even getting a little irresponsible with plant substance or adult beverage. I've never had pain like this before. Story 163. Tomorrow morning, I'm getting a CT scan to see if I have the rare genetic disorder, hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia, HHT. I've had severe random nosebleeds my whole life that have gotten unmanageable the last few months, to the point that I've needed iron infusions and almost needed a blood transfusion. I had no idea that could be a symptom of something dangerous like HHT. Story 164. My heart rate spikes when I change positions, and I feel dizzy and as if I'm about to faint. When it's really bad, I have chest pain. Regardless, I am tired. Thankfully, cardiology is coming up soon, so fingers crossed I won't have to suffer for much longer. Or, if it is a lifelong thing, then I will know how to manage it. Story 165. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, with all the bells and whistles, hip dysplasia and torn labrums on both hips, spinal stenosis, degenerative disc disease, arthritis in my hands, back, hips, and knees, torn ligaments and permanently loose ligaments in both my ankles, all three of the main ligaments, a torn rotator cuff in one shoulder and awaiting an MRI on the other, TMJ, and a jaw that dislocate when I yawn or blow my nose. My left knee hyperextends while I sleep, and my ankles subluxation when I am standing for too long, and I have 7 herniated discs of varying degrees. Story 166. Endometriosis. LSIL considered precancerous, but not likely to turn into cancer and will heal on its own. Asthma, chronic migraines, long COVID-induced immune system issues. Just got over a stomach bug and am now in the middle of a migraine episode. No headache at the moment, but I'm feeling snappy and meany. Story 167. Permanent neuropathy in my hands and feet from chemotherapy I had 3 years ago. Plus, it caused me to lose my ability to see in low light. But I'm losing weight. I have a job I love and work my butt for at 48 years old. Story 168. I have a massive hernia that is a ticking time bomb. But I'm American, so I'll just die from this because I don't have money to fix it. I'm diabetic, but I'm American, so I'll die from this if the hernia doesn't get me first because I'm too poor for treatment. I have one kidney because the other one had a kidney stone that I was too poor to treat until the stone grew to the size of a small mango, and I had to get my entire kidney removed. And since I'm American, I had to file bankruptcy for the medical bills. I got a few moles that keep getting bigger and more irregularly shaped, but I'm American and can't afford cancer screening or treatment. Can't forget PMDD, endometriosis, PCOS, hypothyroid, nasal polyps. Are we great yet? No. America is a joke. Story 169. Lupus, steroid-induced myopathy, slow walking, hard to get out of a chair or floor. Taking a bath is out of the question. Osteoarthritis of my knees, getting a gel injection soon. Torn meniscus, left knee, RT hip torn labrum, spinal arthritis, bradycardia, heart rate dips to 36-39 when I sleep and 40 to 60 in the day. Autonomic nerve system dysfunction, complicated list of weird symptoms, hypermobility syndrome and weak collagen. IBS, totally blown basilar thumb joint on my right hand. COVID almost eliminate me. I have been told I have a shoot immune system. I catch everything. Earlier this year, I had influenza, COVID, and shingles within 4 months. I just got over bronchitis without antibiotics, I have had numerous falls and injuries. I'm only 62. I'm obese, but I'm working hard on my health and have lost some weight. I love my family and want to be there for them in a non-burdensome way. Story 170. My lower back got pulled somehow, and I am limping around hunched over like a 100-year-old with one foot in the grave. Story 171. Nothing. I actually have the strongest immune system out of anyone that I know, and it sucks because I basically never take sick days unless I lie about it. Story 172. Heavy legs, lower back pain, poor sleep quality, and fatigued. I'm 56, 20 pounds overweight. I have a full gym at home, zero motivation. Story 173. Potential Hashimoto's, as I have the same signs my mom did, have been told my thyroid wasn't bad enough to be on medication for it, but autoimmune disease runs heavy on my family. Mom had, she passed, Hashimoto's and RA and lupus and kidney issues. Aunt has Graves' disease and kidney issues. Uncles have Hashimoto's. Dad has psoriasis. Cousins also have autoimmune disease and Cushing's syndrome. Mentally, it's BPD. A lot better now. Thank you, therapy. Bipolar and PTSD. Healing from upper tooth extraction and have dentures at 28 on the upper teeth. Truly a time to be alive. Story 174. Eating disorders mess up so much more of your body than you realize. Because I jumped from ED to ED for many years, my digestive tract is all messed up, my teeth are decaying, my metabolism is screwed, and I cry looking at the nutritional facts sometimes. Let me be your reminder that